Well, when the idea of turning parts of the Great Plains into a very large game preserve was first proposed 20 years ago, it was seen by many as a rebuke of our way of life. The authors of the idea, Frank and Deborah Popper, were roundly dismissed as out-of-touch academics and ridiculed in both opinion pages and in the coffee shops. Yet times have changed in the 2 decades since the Poppers rocked the plains with their idea of a Buffalo Commons. Our Lisa Hines caught up with the two authors and asked them if their original premise still holds true today.
We struck a chord, I think, of anger because people, in fact, were feeling enormous pressures.
So describe to me the impact technology such as pesticides and biotech plays with our environment and our demographics.
Many of the consequences that we were pointing to in our first article came from all sorts of technological improvements, as it were, or as it seemed at the time. You know, sort of pesticides looked as though they were increasing production so enormously, and so you can grow so much more in the same places, and all sorts of things. An intensification, really, of agricultural practice. That also meant that you didn't need as many people. You could just kind of, and in fact, you could get a plane to go fly over, take care of an enormous swath of ground.
So what is the ideal? Is there a happy medium between no one in the plains and someone living in a sustainable community?
There's a whole bunch of big, grinning, happy mediums out there. Even if you take what is perhaps the most hostile conception of the Buffalo Commons, was that it becomes the center of a giant national, that is federally run park, stuck in the middle of the Great Plains. Well, if you look at how other national parks work, here and abroad, people make livings out of national parks. Sometimes people live in national parks. Sometimes people live in national parks and make livings from them. There are all kinds of models of this very worst case interpretation of the Buffalo Commons that still don't quite empty the plains the way we are reputed by some people to have thought of doing.
Can you separate the environment from economics?
No. Okay. For example, just to take something we were just talking about before, when you separate environment from economics, or economics for environment, you lay yourself open to these situations where new technologies come in, seem to have short-term or even long-term beneficial economic effects, but have environmental effects or social effects that end up to be far worse, we think, than any economic benefit you would have gotten. So that again, with all those technology examples of the moldboard plow, or the tractor, or the pesticides, or the center period irrigation, or the county agents and the whole land grant system of university-supported agricultural research, all of that stuff historically has been much more economics-driven than environmentally driven, than socially driven, and so on. And that separation is part of what has landed us, not just the Great Plains or Oklahoma, but landed the nation in some very nasty difficulties it's finding very hard to get out of.
So what is the goal that you hope to accomplish in all of this?
What we hope to do in our small way is to contribute to some, on this trip, certainly to some improvement in Oklahoma's adaptation to its environment and Oklahomans' adaptation to each other, because all you have to do is drive around just a little bit or walk around just a little bit to see that there's some very serious out-of-whack issues.